This is my Prusa XL 5 head, a printer I waited nearly 2 years for and spent more on than any other consumer product I've ever purchased, besides, a car. So you can probably understand why I'd be disappointed when my first print came out looking like this. I shared my experience online, and a lot of the feedback I received was that it wasn't the printer's fault, but rather bad filament. So I want to clear up any confusion with this short update video. I'm going to reserve my full analysis of this printer for a dedicated review video. However, I need more time to produce that and really put the printer through its paces. In the meantime, I feel I have a responsibility to give you an update on my progress. After all, I'm just one voice in a sea of opinions. I just happen to have a bigger stage and a louder microphone. So is the Prusa XL a bad printer? Do the prints still look like crap? No, and not always. My second print looked almost as bad as the first, with heavy stringing and significant layer artifacts. A short time later, I observed that the active tool wasn't sitting flush with the tool changing mechanism. Upon closer inspection, I could see that the source of the problem was the plastic string relief piece. It was at that point that I realized I made a mistake in the assembly. Rather than pulling this piece up before tightening, I pushed it down, which created a misalignment in the tools when picked and parked. So I went along and adjusted those before rerunning the Benchy print. I also lowered the temperature from 210 to 200 and increased retraction from 0.7 to 1.5, all in an effort to curb the stringing. The layer issues were solved, but it still had heavy stringing. So was wet filament the culprit? Perhaps. I store all of my filament in open air while maintaining the humidity in this room at around 30%. So over time, the filament will certainly absorb moisture. But it hasn't been an issue on any other printer I've tested. I routinely grab filament rolls off this shelf and print with them with satisfactory results. As a point of comparison, I took the exact spools I used to print on the XL and printed with them on my Bambu Lab X1 Carbon. So what's your prediction? If the filament is the culprit, the print should look equally as bad, right? Well, here it is. With the exception of some minor stringing, the print looks fine. And this was printed 20 degrees hotter with half the retraction. Back to the XL, I opened a brand new roll of Prusa and did a single tool print. Some very fine stringing is visible, but overall this is a great print. In fact, it looks very similar to a print I got off the Mark IV, printing with a 0.4 nozzle, while the XL uses a 0.6. So this is a great result. I then opened a brand new roll of generic PLA and ran the same test with the generic PLA profile in Prusa Slicer, but with the retraction doubled from the default value. This time the stringing was more significant, but still not as bad as before. For the next test, I went back to the dual color model using the defaults for Prusa and generic PLA. The stringing was back in full force. Actually, it was worse than with the filament that had been sitting out for months, despite these being freshly opened rolls. I then decreased the temperature to 200 for the generic PLA, with retraction increased to 1.2 from the stock 0.7. This result was better, but still stringy, with the most significant stringing coming from the accent color, in this case, white, since there are shorter extrusions and more travel moves for it versus the primary color. With the colors swapped, the stringing was slightly less, but still not insignificant. So we're pretty sure it's not wet filament, and we've already significantly decreased the temperature while increasing the retraction. What then could be the root cause? Well, I think there are two contributing factors. First, the Prusa XL prints hot. Whatever temperature you think you need, lower it by 10 to 15 degrees. Second, the 0.6 nozzles on the Prusa XL are more prone to oozing and stringing due to the larger orifice size. The prominence of stringing is increased when tool changes are required because we have oozing every time the printhead lifts away from the model. So it looks like we're just going to have to get used to the stringing for now. Perhaps switching to 0.4 nozzles could help, or some firmware tricks to reduce pressure in the nozzle before tool changes. Alternatively, we could drop the temperature even lower, but I would worry about layer adhesion if we go any further. One thing I don't feel should be required on a Prusa printer is extensive tuning. After all, that's one of the primary benefits of buying one of these machines: pre-tuned profiles. The generic PLA profile should give a decent result with generic PLA, and right now, at least from my experience, it doesn't. On a positive note, the tool changes are lightning fast. This Benchy took only marginally longer for the dual color version versus the single color version. As a point of comparison, on the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon, a single color Benchy takes a mere 16 minutes. This dual color Benchy, over 6 hours. While we wait for the filament change, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay is your preferred partner in prototyping. They provide a wide variety of services to help turn your ideas into reality, ranging from 3D printing to injection molding and sheet metal forming to CNC machining. As their name implies, they also manufacture printed circuit boards, or PCBs. Simply upload your design to their easy-to-use quote generator to get instant pricing. Whether you're designing a new product or working on a personal project, PCBWay can help bring your ideas to life. And it's still purging. Let me spare you the agony and speed this up. It also generated way more waste. So yeah, when it comes to multicolor and multi-material printing, tool changers are the way to go. Stay tuned for my full review when I really put this machine to the test. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this short update video was useful for you. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing for more content. My name's Taylor, this is YGK3D, and until next time, happy 3D printing.